Welcome to Who's Your Mother podcast, where we discover who we are as souls and mothers through Reiki, spirituality, and healing. Hi, I'm Carolina, your host and Reiki master. I'm so very excited you're here today, and let's get started. Hi, welcome to Who's Your Mother podcast, where we discover ourselves as souls and mothers through spirituality, healing, and Reiki. And today we have a very, very special guest. Her name is Jackie. And she has not only become a good friend of mine, but she's also a member of my fertility membership, which is called the Divine Feminine Fertility Collective. And we're going to talk about overcoming fear in your fertility journey today and Jackie's journey in fertility. Jackie, you want to give a little intro for yourself? Where are you from? Where are you living right now? A little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. I'm Jacqueline. I'm originally from Laredo, Texas, so just like a mile away from the border of Mexico. And right now I'm in Washington State. I move a lot because my husband's in the military. And we've been on this fertility journey going on 4 years consistently.
Wow. And thank you for your husband and you for what you do for our country and for his service. Like, I just never can say thank you enough. One of my best friends, she's a military wife too, and just the sacrifice that the families do, the spouses and the children and parents of the servicemen and women is just so immense, and it's so overlooked. And I didn't know until I got to know her how much sacrifice goes, especially when you have children and spouses, how long periods of time you would have to go and the strain and just on your relationship. So thank you so much for your husband and your just everything that you do. I'm just so thankful. So obviously we're here to talk about fertility. So is there, can you tell me, is there any particular, like, what's the number one thing that's helped you overcome fear in your fertility journey?
Yeah, so I mean, when I found Reiki is what it's helped me through my fears of like anxiety. I had really, really bad anxiety of never being enough and being able to have my own baby. Because every single time I think about like, oh, am I gonna get pregnant? I would get a panic attack. And the last time I've had a panic attack has been a good 6 months. And I think I first followed you back in, if I'm correct, it was August of last year.
Oh, okay. What,
So
did we meet on TikTok?
We did. Yes, you were doing it live.
Those lives on TikTok are wild.
Yes. But yeah, that ever since that's what helped me overcome everything is Reiki. It's helped me a lot.
It just makes my heart sing so much. Because I launched the membership. I think I launched it. I got COVID in September, and it was pretty gnarly. That was ugly. And then I think I was supposed to launch in September, and I got COVID, and it just wiped me out. So then I launched the membership in October. Yeah, and it's been I don't know, I can't count today. It's been at least 6 months since then.
About like 8, just about.
Yeah. And so for Reiki, for anyone that doesn't know what Reiki is a proven stress reduction technique from Japan that uses the life force energy that's already existing around you, that flows through you, that makes your lungs expand, the grass grow. Basically, the practitioner will hold space and channel the energy as a conduit from the universe to you. And that can be done different ways. It can be done in person with hands on. It can be done also in person, but your hands not touching. It can be done remotely. It also can be done through certain lineages, through meditation. And that's what we utilize, video and meditation in the membership. And we have live circles, which is also very much fun. I love all the community inside. What exactly have you been able to do to honor your energy needs? Because as a person that's trying to conceive, that is very taxing and might be very difficult to articulate, even know what you're feeling, what your needs are. How do you manage that?
Well, at first it was very hard. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard to just protect my energy overall. I was always stressed, always worried. But what I do to honor it now is I make sure I dedicate time to myself to go to the gym, which is something I absolutely love. I dedicate time to just be outside and enjoy. Oh, it's a sunny day because Washington, obviously, we have a lot of gloomy days. But
But you live near where Twilight is, right?
about 3 hours away, yeah, Forks.
I'm still a diehard Twilight fan. I'm
No
38.
worries.
I'm 38, everyone. I'm just still, I can't even talk. I'm stuttering. I'm 38 and still a diehard Twilight. Keep going. I'm going to come visit you. We'll go to Forks together.
Yes, I've never been, which is one of my goals.
Your bucket list? Let's do it together.
Yeah. But
sorry, I distracted you.
No, it's okay.
So how do you manage your needs?
Yeah, my needs. Oh, so I'm not gonna lie. I went through like a little bit of a struggle time with my jobs, but in January I was able to find a good paying job, and I was able to go do my hair, constantly get my eyebrows done, which is one of my favorite things. I like to maintain everything really good. Except obviously this past week I've just been a little bit lazy since my husband's not here. I don't have to do anything.
You're taking a break, you're taking a rest.
Yes.
You're prioritizing your wellness.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just make sure like I'm focusing on, I'm not stressing, that I'm not overwhelming myself or my body, because I had a really bad habit of over like doing everything in my life, and my body was always extremely tired. And my mindset too. But for mentally wise, I make sure like that gym really helps me a lot mentally wise, because I went through a really, really tough stage in my life that I was not ready for, but I pushed through. I'm still here. And
I'm so proud of you. I think one of the most important things, like I have like kind of a signature method, but when I'm doing private coaching, especially, is like when a person comes and their sacral chakra is blocked, the first thing that I say is, one is like emotional security. Where do we have it? Where do we don't? What relationships are not providing you that? What do we need to do to address that? And then the second thing is we need to get you a hobby. And that needs to be something that you can want to do. And you do that hobby whenever you are anything other than happy. And that is going to keep you, either it's an activity that could be creative or not, but it's an activity or a hobby that is going to allow you to ground by this. It's usually a curiosity can lead to a hobby, then can lead to a passion. But through that pursuit, you find out a lot about yourself. And as women, we are service to everyone. We tend to be, and we forget who we are in the process. So I believe hobbies and activities, such like you're saying, going to the gym for you, is super important to have, so you can always be grounded in who you are, and you know what's important to you, what makes you feel good. And that allows you to then know yourself on a deeper level. I'm so proud that you have that. It's so important. And that in turn also heals your womb. Is like you have this creative, this outlet that you're allowing to express yourself, that's exerting, you can actually exert negative emotion through this, but it also allows you to expand your consciousness through that activity. I know running, lifting weights, expand my consciousness. It actually does, because you're allowing all of your energy and forms of yourself to be collected in your physical body and be grounded. And then you cannot be doing such an important activity and be absent-minded. You could get really hurt. So that means you're very present. And when you're present, you're grounded. And that means there's a reduction of anxiety and a reduction of depression and a reduction of stress because you're living in the moment and you're observant and you're collected, you're aligned. And then also in those moments, shortly or thereafter, you'll then be very open to receive downloads, is what I like to call them, or receipts from your spirit guides, from your angel, your higher self, source, God, your angels, for like messages that they want to send you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
I
so
have
glad
noticed
that
the
you
past
had
week.
that.
Yeah, this past week, every single time that I'm like after being focused, like you say, I do get like I've been getting like these signs. After I had asked you about the static little signs that I've just been getting out of nowhere with my radio or my AirPod, it kept going this past week. Even yesterday it did that to us, and as I got in the car, I was like, I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to tell me.
I see hawks a lot. My dad sends a lot of hawks.
Oh,
And I had to look up the meaning, but like when I see a hawk, it's just like a validation that I'm on the right path, and then just a reminder my dad's around in the best way. Yeah. Another person in our community, she sees a certain number, and that is a number from her grandma. And it's a very specific number. It's not like a repeating number. It's like a very specific date. And then whenever she sees those three numbers, she takes it as validation of it's a yes to proceed.
that's sweet.
So signs can be very specific to a person. Another person sees owls in our community.
Wow,
So yeah.
that's crazy.
So is there as you said for consistently for 4 years you've been on this fertility journey, what has made you keep going and how do you navigate it?
So what's actually pushed me to keep going is that I've always wanted to have a little one. I always hear your little footsteps running around. Ever since I was a middle school, I've just always been like, I'm gonna be a great mom. Because I used to take care of my nephew all the time. I raised my first
Okay.
nephew. And since then I've just had this driven of like thing in me that always wanted to push myself. Like I will have like a baby, a little one running around, but that did impact me a lot mentally. Um, After seeing negative every time. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people feel that way. They start losing hope. They start feeling negative about themselves. But that's how Reiki came in and helped me. Because I was always like, it's not gonna happen. Like I'm tired. And I get tearful because it pushed me a lot to get here.
You've been through so much.
Yeah, like it had even gone into a point where me and my spouse were gonna divorce.
Yeah.
But because he was already tired like of himself, like what's it called? He felt like he wasn't showing enough emotion to himself because he had, after we lost our son, he blocked out.
It's a lot to go through. It's a
Yeah,
lot to come back from and try again.
exactly.
Fertility. So people don't talk enough about fertility trauma. And I necessarily didn't even recognize or understand that until about a year ago. And then the next thing is like after you lose a baby, nobody like, and then you try again. You don't hear enough stories about that. Like people don't talk enough about miscarriage, but like losing a baby definitely um definitely like a lot of marriages fall apart in the process.
Yeah.
What did you do to how did you address that with him? Like how did you come back even just from that and reconnect with him to try again?
Um, we gave each other, well, he was in Korea at the time and I was back in Texas with my family. Um, we just started, like, we took a little break and I was like, you know what, like, we're obviously still married, we're still gonna like respect each other and everything, but I need to heal myself and focus on me. And I did for a while. I focused on me. I started going back to the gym. I lost 20 pounds and it was, my mental health was at a good place again. And he started doing the same thing. He went to the gym. His mental health started getting good, and we started communicating. We started talking again, more open. And once he came back, well, we had gotten back together before he came back. We were only like 2 months with like just trying to recover within ourselves. And that's when we finally moved back here. We moved here to Washington. He told me, "Do you still want to try?" And I said, "Yes, I do." Because, it's something I really want. And he was like, "Okay, then I do too. Like, this is something I really want to do." So that's when we went to the fertility doctor, and every step went forward from there. But it did take us a while, even here when we were here. We got here like, I think it was 2020 or 2021. I can't remember. It feels like it's been years.
I know 2020 and 21 like kind of run into each other.
Yeah. But we did have a little difficult time here as well, because there was like, I guess, for being apart from each other for a whole year, we had forgotten how to live with one another. So there was constant arguments. And then finally, when, like I said, I found Reiki, it kind of eased me, and I started talking to him more about it and realized that it related to what he believed in, because he believes in Norse mythology. He's like, okay, so that kind of ties into what I believe in. And that's when we have more communication, more stuff to talk about. And now, I mean, we're always on the same page. We're always laughing. He listens sometimes to like the stories. He's like, "How did your meeting go?" Like, I want to hear how your meeting went. And when he finds interest, that pushes me to be like, okay, this is a person I really do want to have a child with.
So, oh my gosh, there's so many significant milestones and victories to celebrate in that. So just to recap. So you had lost, it was Christopher, right? You had lost your baby.
Godric, yeah.
And then you were separated. He was in Korea because he's in the military. And then so you took a time to to process that huge loss. And then you guys moved to Washington. And then that's basically when you started over. And then you're like, I want to try again. And that's so like, I'm just, so many people, you could have given up so many times and you didn't. And now you're in a happy place together, connected and on your fertility journey and trying again, and you're happy. And that's just so beautiful. That takes a lot of work from both sides. So congratulations to him and to you. That is so, and what I love about Reiki, it's not the same outcome for everyone. So like when we do fertility Reiki, it's not just to boost your fertility or open your sacral chakra so that you can conceive. It's so much more. It's about the soul discovery. It's about connecting with who you are, because in your sacral chakra, which is located in your pelvis, is where everything is birthed from. So not just a tiny human, but who you are, your curiosities, your passions, like what you want to do, who you want to be, your manifestations, your connection to your higher self, like sexuality, pleasure, just emotional security. All of those things are so tied together. Relationships, just like in like the processing of shame, blame, guilt, fear, resentment, like all of those things are also stored there, and traumas can be healed and released so you can, and when they're released, you have more capacity to expand and love with, and that affects then all the other chakras. It's so huge when you process. And I think I know I've watched you, and that's what I've seen over the past few months. And then what then happens is a lot of people say they want to be happy, but what I've seen is, particularly in you, is that you've obtained more peace. And when you have more peace, you have more joy. Like it's really, and healing is not linear.
Yeah.
It is definitely just like water, just like the ocean. It comes with low tide, high tide, waves. It can be flat for a while. It can be steady. It can be rocky. It can be so many things. So it just definitely has its seasons. But with Reiki, it allows whatever is not, that has not been healed when we're doing a Reiki session to come to the surface so it can gently be released. And sometimes that's through tears. Sometimes that's through yawning, tingles. Sometimes afterwards people are really thirsty and hungry, or sometimes they're really tired and then they go to sleep. Or sometimes we were super energized and they're like, let's go conquer the world. But everyone's reaction is different. But I think what I struggle with is that it's sometimes hard to explain, yeah, fertility Reiki or just Reiki womb healing can help you boost your fertility, but that's the primary thing we want to do because we want you to conceive your baby. But also, I promise you will forever be better off because you did it.
Yeah, it's so much more than that.
It's hard to say that in a 15-minute clip in TikTok land. And it's hard to convey, like, because the transformation for every person is so different. But it is quite possible. And Reiki is not the answer for everything. Like, I would never recommend for Reiki just as the sole thing that you're doing for your fertility. Never. I think that Western medicine and Eastern medicine have such a great place together, and it's like the best mix. So like a lot of people do IUI or IVF with acupuncture and Reiki, or Reiki without acupuncture, whatever floats their boat. But also just in alignment with their doctor, because Reiki supports is a great complement to any fertility or medical treatment plan. So whether you get Reiki from me or someone else, I highly recommend getting Reiki at least once to experience it. Is your cat staring at, is it a boy or girl cat?
It's a girl.
My cat was here earlier and now she's resting. My puppies are in the chair next to me sleeping. So now I've done so many shameless plugs in for my fertility practice, Reiki practice. Do you have any advice for moms who are trying to conceive now and how to overcome fear?
Yes. One thing is, don't give up. It's going to always seem hard. You're going to feel drained and put out of place. But remember what was the reason why you started this fertility journey, what pushed you to be there, what your main goal was. Mentally just find something that's going to help you, whether that's listening to your favorite song that just makes you happy overall, doing an activity like Carolina says, or just watching a show with your spouse or a family, anything that you just love, plain and simple. Just work on that. And I promise you that I'm not going to say it's going to get easier, but it's going to help. It's definitely going to help. That's my big advice.
Do you have any advice for people who are trying to conceive on how to support their spouses and partners better during the process? Because as this podcast is geared towards the mothers and souls who are trying to conceive and ultimately get pregnant, but I don't want to forget about the other part, because it's a partnership. It's two that are welcoming typically. What advice do you have to support spouses?
Me personally, what I do, I found out what my husband's love language was. What made him feel
great idea.
Yeah, what made him feel more calm and more at peace with himself, because I don't want him to stress out as much as I was. So for him, it was gaming. We both are gamers. And
I love that.
He loves alone time. So when he's gaming and he's in the zone, he does not like being like, constantly being like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? So I don't go in there. And he doesn't come in here because that's my thing too. I don't like being interrupted while I'm gaming. But another thing we also do, we go at least once a week in the weekend, we go on a date. And we talk about what's the goal for the week. What are we wanting to achieve? But always be supportive. Let them know that you appreciate that they've been so patient as well with you, and the whole process, and that you do love them, because they also want to hear the words that they are loved, about what they're doing as well. That's
Oh my
just
gosh, that's such good advice. They want to hear that they're loved as well.
yes.
I think that's all just wonderful advice. I think now that now that I've done so many interviews for this podcast, it's just this the other partner, the other spouse, does so much support, but and they're along with the journey, and they mourn the loss too, if there's any losses, and the disappointments too, along with the negatives, but there's not much processing or support given to them. So, and I think it's also very difficult when you're going through a loss, or when you're going through a negative pregnancy test, to have the capacity to lend in that moment the support to your spouse. It's usually a little bit later, because you need time to recover. It's happening to your body. You're the womb. You're the person who's conceiving. They are too, but it's particularly harder because you're the person. I think it's always, when I've gotten a lot more wisdom in hindsight, compared to like when we were conceiving in 2015, 2016, is to make sure that that there's just a support team, or you have a support system just in general on speed dial for your spouse. And I just learned this not related to fertility, but like, we live in Nebraska. The winters can be really long, especially for my Miami Floridian soul. Winters can get really long and dreary, and they can kind of mess with your head a little bit, like another snowstorm. So I think what has really helped in my marriage is being aware of like my husband's relationship and who he values the most, or who does he talk to about what thing. So I know when I see him needing a little bit of help, I know which friend to call. Not that I'm trying to be nosy, but and then having that enough of a relationship that I can call or text that friend, and say, hey, can you check in on Ryan? Can you call without me being, because in that moment, maybe they're too sensitive or too much for me to say, you should call. Like, you don't want to ask them to do any more work. You don't want to ask them to do anything else. But in the moment, if I have the capacity, I can text a specific friend that I know that will come through and take him to lunch, or they can have a FaceTime date, and that friend is going to serve a purpose, because I cannot. So important. I'm sorry, I'm so long-winded today. I'm just finishing my first coffee. Okay. But it's been made all the difference in our marriage.
Yeah, it does help, because I've noticed, and this was on my part too, when we had lost our son, I really depended on him to be my rock all the time. And I always said, like, you don't understand what I'm going through. Like, it was me, like, he was in my body. And I didn't realize that he was hurting just as bad, because he had to be strong, but he wasn't showing his emotion, because he's like, I don't want to put more stress on her.
It's a super common thing for men to do.
Yeah. And that's when we started like communicating and start talking, I was like, it's okay for you to open up to me. I can be your rock too. Like, you don't have to worry about like stressing me out. Like, I just want to help you, because my husband is not good with his mental state. He's finally coming out of like depression on his own, but he's had a rough life, and to see him finally get out of that stage is amazing to me, because I'm seeing him constantly grow. So whenever I tell him he's happy, I tell him, I'm happy that you're getting to a stage where you can finally open up. I'm happy you're getting to a part where you can be yourself. and not pretend to cover your emotions and bottle them all up. Because when he does that, I feel like it's not only like I said, affecting him mentally and emotionally, but it can also affect everything else in his life.
Right.
So if I'm at peace, I want my husband to be at peace too. And that's why, like, when we started finally going to places and doing more together, that is taking him out of his depression because he's spending more time and valuing more time together.
I think that making memories and dating your spouse is so important. And one of my, we do attend different marriage conferences, and they're religious and not religious. But one of the Christian marriage conferences that we went to, and I just take what resonates and leave the rest, and some of it really stays a lot there. But what they say about, like, prioritizing in this particular marriage conference, I got a lot from, was prioritizing your husband always over your children, and why does that serve you well, and why never stop dating your spouse, and how to argue in a healthy way, and why that's important. That is like something I always recommend, is always date your spouse. It makes such a huge difference because they feel seen and heard. And we actually bought these cards off of Amazon. They're like these question cards that are for couples, and we take it on our dates, and we go out. We usually go out to lunch every Monday to start off the week together, and we don't really have a babysitter here in Nebraska. So shout out to anyone here in Omaha. If you want to be my babysitter, let me know. So we date while Ollie's at daycare. And I really miss nighttime dates. That makes me feel like a grown up. But daytime dates hits a little bit different, but it's entrepreneur life. You got to do when you can do it. So we take these cards, and they're thought-provoking conversations. Like, they're wild too. Like, if you could live anywhere right now, where would you and why? Or like, one of them was, would you ever consider doing drugs? And I was like, what? It was like, or like another one was, if you had no money issues, who would you be? What would you do? And I was like, oh, that's easy. I would move to Florida, and I would live on the beach.
Yes.
And I was like, I would have every animal known to man, and I would have a nanny, and I would have a driver because I hate driving in Florida. And I would homeschool my kid, and I'd just do all these things. But those cards are really funny. You'd be surprised what they answer. My husband said he wanted to be a house DJ. I was like, I did not know that about you. Well, we both like house music, and I like tropical house music. And he's like, no, I would definitely be a house DJ. I was like, well, damn, I had no idea. How do we make those dreams come true? So,
like, you guys have this beautiful connection, just like, I see you.
he's everything I'm not. My husband is pretty remarkable. He's one of the best people I know. People see him as this quiet, reserved human. He can be quiet, but we talk a lot in this house. Like, I knew I wanted to marry him on the third date. And I also told him that I was in love with him on the third date.
It's okay. I told my husband I loved him.
I was also a little drunk. I was sunburned, and we were at the Iowa State Fair, and we're going to a concert to see Train. And I was so dehydrated. I had drank this gigantic beer I paid $25 for. And I said, I'm in love with you. I didn't say I want to marry you, but it was pretty close to that. Like, what is it? That Marry Me song? He's like, there was like no hands touching me. He went from being like this and like, it's like,
Like, oh,
Yeah. We got married less than a year later. It's fine. Got the goods. But he's a wonderful person, and he is the more that we're married, the more that we become like each other. He becomes
oh,
more
that's so
bold and sassy and more daring. And the more I'm like, let's just keep with the plan. Like it'd be really good if we just stuck with the plan here. And our son looks exactly like him and acts like the very younger, bolder, more daring, smarter version of me. Ollie's just the best of both of ourselves. But I swear that kid is smarter than both of us put together. That is for sure. He woke up yesterday morning and he got up. He goes, I have to pee. So he went to the bathroom. And then I said, are you doing okay? He goes, don't talk to me. And then he walked into the closet, slammed the door, and he was like, I'm getting dressed. And then you hear 5 minutes later, the door creak. I need a little bit of help.
Oh.
I was like, okay, we accelerated from 5 to 55, grumpy old man, to, okay, we're back to 5-year-olds. I need a little bit of help with my pants.
Oh.
When I have a lot of people on TikTok will ask, how do you know if you found your soulmate? You'll just know. And I just knew with him, I just knew life was going to be better with him than I ever could imagine without him. So thank you so much for your time, Jackie.